Ready? You can step up.
Hell yeah.
You have your phone set. Okay. Good.
Look at the shirt, the MAGA powers. We're going to destroy the woke. What are they going to do when we drop the big boot on trans and we drop the big boot on everything? We're going to drop the big boot on Social Security. Does that work for you, brother? Trump is a real felon. Then he went to Epstein Island. Trump, no physical, no political violence. No political violence. No political violence, though.
It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
I gotta admit, seeing Hogan getting trolled by some Trump haters is quite entertaining. You go watch that video back when Hogan turns around and looks at the guy. Hogan's got this look on his face that he's just startled. I gotta show it to you again. Let me see if I could get the exact spot. It's pretty fucking funny. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
Look at the shirt, the MAGA powers. We're going to destroy the woke. What are they going to do when we drop the big boot on trans and we drop the big boot on...
Right there. Right there. Hey, Hulk, you got a little bit of Shawn Michaels with the lazy eye. Anybody notice that? Hulk, he's got a lazy eye now. I noticed that. By the way, everyone, if you're interested, David Benoit was at the Hogan autograph signing. That's David Benoit. You know, somebody tried to call me out saying, how dare you talk about a deceased son of Chris Benoit? That is Daniel Benoit, not David Benoit. Nice try, though. Nice try. What's up, brothers? It is Sunday night, September 1st, 2024. Welcome to your latest edition of The Sit Down. I am Don Tony. I hope everyone is having a great weekend. I am up here for a little while, just chewing the fat, whatever you guys want to talk about for this evening. Mostly the world of professional wrestling. We kind of stay on that topic. That seems to be the most popular of sorts. Don't forget, 2 weeks from today, Kev Castle and yours truly. Oh, yeah, we do have a thumbnail. Yeah, 2 weeks from today, Kev will join me live. So we have a little episode going there. And tomorrow night after Raw, Kev Castle and yours truly will be doing our regular installment of the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. You know, we try to stay ahead of the pulse of a lot of reporting out there. I thought it was cute that all the websites are now saying that Darby Allin could be the one to beat Bryan Danielson for the World Heavyweight Championship. And yeah, we talked about that like 6 weeks ago. And a conversation that Kevin and I had 2 weeks ago, we're going to bring it up again tomorrow. But I wanted to mention it here just to be on timestamp, you know, in case they do start it early. But this is coming soon, guys. Gunther versus CM Punk is coming soon. So we will definitely talk about that tomorrow if they do not start planting these seeds already. I don't know if it's going to happen for Bad Blood, because Bad Blood, you kind of feel like you need one more match between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. Aren't they like one apiece? And CM Punk, thank God he got that bracelet back. Thank God he got that bracelet back. You know, it's funny. If you tuned into this morning's news report, we ran the table so far. Every prediction we made for TNA Emergence happened. Every Let's see if this does it. There we go. Wow. Holy shit. Holy shit. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. How long was the audio out? Was it out since the beginning? Oh, 1 minute? Oh, okay. All right. Wow. I just hit one button and it reset. Now I know for the future. Thank God. Thank God. Do you know why that happened? Because I opened up the browser to see the No Mercy results. I can't open up a fucking browser. I'm going to have to start using my phone as a secondary information source when we go live and get my info off the phone. So sorry, everybody, for that little audio mishap. It won't happen again. Even on Monday nights, it won't happen again. I got a quick fix now. Thank God. I was like, oh, man. So anyway, I don't know how much you heard of what I was saying with No Mercy, but, we had a perfect week with predictions. TNA Emergence, WWE Bash in Berlin, and I thought we were legitimately could run the table with NXT No Mercy if Joe Hendry wins the belt and Zachary Wentz defeats Wes Lee. And lo and behold, the match that I thought absolutely, next to Roxanne Perez, absolutely would be the certain outcome, Nathan Frazier and Axiom win the belts back. I mean, why? They just lost them. Was this the only way they could figure out how to turn Ridge Holland heel against Chase University? You had to have a loss of the titles. Oh, man. I mean, I know we said that a tag team was going to split at the end of that match. I didn't think it was going to be Chase University. But, yeah, that happened. So there goes our streak, everybody. There goes our streak. If everybody in audio only is like, DT, you just said that twice. Well, that's because our friends on video cannot hear about a minute of the show, so I kind of had to say it again. But, one thing I will say, and I think the audio did cut off about this, Joe Hendry, I almost feel needs to win the NXT World Championship. You know why? Up until now, he's an internet phenomenon. And there's a lot more about Joe Hendry's career that a lot of people don't know. I watched footage of him and Kurt Angle. That happened. So Joe Hendry isn't like a rookie. Joe Hendry's been around for a while. He just, dyed his hair, rebranded himself, started doing stuff on the net, and the rest is history. But it's been going on for a while now. I don't want to put it in LA Knight territory, but I think a lot of you agree that when LA Knight really took off in the WWE, you started to think like, wait, this guy is fucking massively over, but he ain't winning no titles. And I get it, for some people, titles don't mean anything, but it's also acknowledgement from the company you work for that they feel that you are the best of the best. Plus, here's something to think about. And we'll go to the floor. We'll start taking questions right away. For every single one of you out there that say titles don't matter, no matter what company it is, if you have a particular wrestler that you are a fan of, and they don't win any titles because it doesn't matter anyway, when you go back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, and you look at the record books and your guy is nowhere to be found, kind of diminishes what their value was in the world of pro wrestling. I mean, there are some exceptions to the rule. Jimmy Snuka, even though he turned into a murderer, Roddy Piper for the majority of his career, there's a few exceptions to the rule, but you want your favorites to have gold because once you're in the record books, they can't take that back unless your last name is Benoit. That's just my opinion. So I think Joe Hendry at this point, he ain't winning the TNA World Championship anytime soon. So what belt does he win? I don't see anything wrong with him winning the NXT World Championship for now. And then maybe he could drop it to Trick Williams. Just brainstorm it a little bit. So we'll see what happens. Wendy Chu did not win against Kalani Jordan. That does not surprise me at all. Kalani Jordan is the first NXT Women's North American Champion, and they want to start that reign with a bang. And I think it's a little too soon to take that belt off of Kalani Jordan. Wendy Chu's been great, but I don't think you take the belt off of Kalani Jordan just yet. So, by the way, a lot of you were asking me the other day, who do I think that Jada Parker and Roxanne Perez saw that they were spooked by? And I've narrowed it down to two women, Julia or Cora Jade. And I kind of think Cora Jade, because if you follow Roxanne Perez's promos recently, talking about Stephanie McClure and Julia, she's like, so what? You know what I mean? She had that attitude. Cora Jade, though, different animal. Cora Jade been out for quite some time, and Cora Jade is about this close to start going full time in the ring again. So I have a feeling it could be Cora Jade. Stephanie McClure, for those that are saying it in the chat, Stephanie McClure is not a household name yet. She is well-known overseas, and for a small group of fans out there, listen, before Stephanie McClure had that match in AEW, 90%, maybe more, of American wrestling fans never really knew much about her at all. Nothing much at all. Because I can guarantee you over the last year, when people were talking about who WWE should bring in, I don't know if Stephanie McClure was mentioned even once. So, she's not a household name yet. Julia's gotten exposure on WWE television. She's been seen in the crowd. They've had the billboards. They've plugged her online. Julia has gotten a lot more exposure, but I think Cora Jade, I think you got to go with a homegirl in that angle. And who knows, we may get down the line a three-way. Jada Parker, Cora Jade, and Roxanne Perez for the women's championship. So, all right. So, without further ado, let's focus to the floor. Whatever you guys want to talk about tonight, we shall. Right after I finish this live stream, I will be recording the daily news update for Monday morning. We have a couple of interesting things to get into. Raw preview will be brief because by the time most of you tune into that report, Raw would have happened already. But, we will see a championship celebration with Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill on Raw. And I'm starting to think that we may end up seeing something with Damage Control versus them. I think that's the match people want to see. Damage Control versus, I do not want to see the pure furry collective, challenging Bianca and Jade, because that's going to be guaranteed squash. And with all due respect, nothing against Zoe Stark, because Kevin and I, have a little bit more appreciation. We root for her for that much more for obvious reasons recently. But they've gotten a lot of opportunities lately, a lot. I don't think some people realize how much they've been number one contenders and they haven't won it. So, all right, before we go to the chat room, got a couple of super shout outs that I'd like to share with everybody. First off, tonight, we have, who's the first tonight? Bernard. What's up, Bernard? Thank you for the 10 spot, my friend. How did I like the style between Gunther and Randy Orton? Forget about the crowd. I just really love the old school European style of the match. We don't get that enough. Gunther is a real throwback. Let me tell you something. I watched Bash in Berlin yesterday. This was somewhat of the opposite of SummerSlam. It wasn't necessarily storyline driven. If you think about it, I'm shocked that we did not have the bloodline as a factor on this card. I'm just a little bit surprised. They were touring that neck of the woods the entire week. And you think Germany, especially that it became the biggest grossing arena show of all time, those people paid big money. And as I mentioned on this morning's news report, have you seen one German online complaining? Which that's so expensive. WWE, mortgaged house, however you say it in German. Nobody's complaining. Everybody had a ball. And that crowd yesterday, holy shit. Holy shit. It was awesome. But it was easy viewing. It's easy viewing. I'm not I don't like comparing WWE to AEW unless it's absolutely necessary. But this is why you should not compare AEW to WWE. You know, this was easy watching. It's like you just kick back, you're watching it, you're taking it in. Everything is top quality. You know, it's not like you go to a restaurant and you look at the plate and you're like, what the fuck is this? Oh, monsieur, it looks like a piece of fucking fish to me. It looks like a piece of fish and a piece of parsley. Oh, no, monsieur. AEW All In. You know, AEW All In is where you go. The best way I could describe it is AEW All In was an all-you-can-eat buffet. You walk into the buffet, you got chicken fingers, you got pizza, you got pot roast, you got macaroni and cheese, you got mashed potatoes, you got hamburgers, hot dogs, you got everything. And you might be one that say, give me it all. Give me it all. I want it all. And then you might get someone to say, you know what? I'm just here for the crab legs. You know, I'm just here for the crab legs. That's what AEW All In was. And that's not a criticism. What WWE was yesterday was going to a 3-course restaurant and they give you appetizer, main course, dessert. And you look at your plate and you know exactly what you're getting. No special anything for the most part, but really, really good quality stuff. Oh, my steak is kind of small. Only 5 matches? The hell is this? I paid $150 for this ticket. I'm only getting 5 matches? And then you bite into it, you're like, holy shit, the stuff is good. That's exactly the difference between AEW and WWE. I hate when people try to like compare the two, and it's an obsession. It's an obsession. You see, once again, Swerve Strickland. You know, did you see the stuff with Meltzer this week? And I'm starting to get mad at Meltzer. I'm going to be honest with you. I'll probably get blocked sooner or later. Dave, I appreciate what you did for me in the past and some of the causes that I was involved in. But man, you know, that shovel that you're scooping that bullshit in is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Seriously, it's so big you probably could dig graves in one sitting. Now he's saying that, oh, Swerve Strickland's contract was so huge that WWE passed on it, feeling this, and that, and they felt it. And I'm like, you know, now I know why they keep bringing up contract tampering, because it gives them an excuse to make stupid things like this. But here's the funny thing about it. Swerve Strickland's contract was not expiring. It's not like Swerve Strickland got an offer and then went to WWE and said, what do you think? You want to match it? And WWE's like, are you kidding me? No. Tony Khan added more years to his deal. So why would WWE even look at it? And even if they did, Swerve is not leaving anytime soon. You realize the level of bullshit here. Kevin Owens, you know, people are immediately saying like, oh, AEW offered this and this and that. Have you heard of Kevin Owens actually meeting with AEW to discuss it? They put it this way. You have to actually go to a company and have them present you a contract in order for that to be real. Just because AEW says, man, I would love to sign Kevin Owens. That would be amazing. Not as amazing as Sting's final match. You know, he arguably had the greatest run of his career because AEW is where the best wrestle. And this is if you don't fucking actually offer a contract to Kevin Owens where he reads it and says, let me think about it, that's not offering a contract. Just because I want to bang the hottest chick on the end of the block doesn't mean that I actually like hung out with her and, you know, we actually almost came this close of hitting it off. Just like that nut job online that wants to hook up with Liv Morgan. And just because you fantasize about it doesn't mean that something actually might have gone down. I'm getting tired of that shit, man. Tired of it. Oh, but Bash in Berlin was fun yesterday. It was easy viewing. Everything it needed to do, it did. If I had to knock anything, you know, I don't know how people feel about Isla Dawn and Alba Fire's title reign, 77 days. Maybe it was around the right time to do the change, but some people feel, But Bianca and Jade are tag team champions again. There's a possibility of having Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley at Bad Blood. I don't see it, to be honest with you, because WWE is just not going to do intergender matches at this point. That might be a little bit different. If you do something, maybe, but listen, if you pay close attention to Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio, the story is everybody's supposed to believe that they have a fling going on. Dominic's like, she can have my chicken tenders anytime she wants. The storyline is that they're supposed to be, Dominic's supposed to be hitting that. It is the most G-rated relationship that I've ever seen. Have you ever paid close attention of Dominic and Liv when they enter the ring, when they're in the back, when they're celebrating? He gives her kisses on the head like you would give a dog. Mwah. Mwah. It's like G-rated. I mean, I don't want to see tons hockey. You think I want to see Dominic Mysterio's tongue? You think I want to see him play tons hockey? No. But you look at it and you're like, and you're going to go intergender? Maybe when they move to Netflix. Netflix, whole different animal, man. It's going to be really interesting. Be prepared. Be prepared. 2025. Mark my words. We're usually right, but be prepared. In 2025, you will see a huge increase of people online angry at WWE saying, I can't let my kids see this anymore. Once John Cena is gone, you know what? I can't let my kids watch Raw anymore. It's too vulgar. Pat McAfee is too, curses too much. It's a little bit too over the top. When they go to Netflix, it's not going to be TV 14. Maybe it will be rated TV 14 because it gives them the leeway. We'll go back to the floor in a second, but I want to just rehash a little education that I gave everybody a year and a half ago, whenever it was. Do you remember about a year and a half ago, a whole bunch of news outlets reported that WWE Raw was going back to TV 14? And everybody was like, this Monday night, TV 14, Raw is back. They've been back to TV 14. Holy shit, PG era is dead. And I came up here and I said, that's absolutely not happening. And I'm not a genius here. All you had to do is just think common sense. You'd have to check with investors, advertisers, networks, sponsors. You have to get the okay for them. And even if you didn't get the okay from them, you have to let them know in advance that, listen, we're now going to change our rating. We're going to have vulgar language. And there's a lot of sponsors that'll be like, we don't want to be on the show anymore. That's it. And what happened? It never went TV 14. When they go to Netflix, though, it is a whole different animal because every advertiser that is part of Netflix knows in advance what is going to be happening or what could happen on WWE television. So is it going to be blood every single week? No. If it's blood every single week, we'll get numb to it. That's a lot of AEW's problem, with all due respect. A lot of the promises, the guarantees, the title matches, everybody is given a title for, as a prop. It doesn't feel as important as they used to feel. So people get numb to it. When you get a lot of, matches where referees can never gain control, everybody's numb to it. It doesn't feel extra special anymore. When everybody does flippy, then unless you dive off the fucking bridge, it doesn't feel like, oh, Ricochet, oh God, that's so 2015 or 2020. There's 1,000 Ricochets now. I don't think that of Ricochet. Ricochet is a special motherfucker. Ricochet is going to tear it up because Ricochet also has charisma. He's got a look, and he's very, very likable and very, very friendly. So even if you had 5 different people doing the same goddamn moves Ricochet does, Ricochet will still stand out. But for a lot of people, they have a hard time. Yeah, I hope Tony D loses now too. He will. Obafemi, listen, Obafemi kind of reminds me of like Monty Brown a little bit, little Goldberg, little Monty Brown, a little Rhino-ish with his offense. Do you think with all the momentum that Obafemi has had over the last 6 months, would you have Tony D and all that? And listen, Tony D, Italiano, Goomba. You know, I root for Tony D, but that's not the person you decide, hey, I'm going to fucking end your streak. You don't like it, you could suck at my salami. No. No. All right. Speaking of AEW, Ronnie C with a 10 spot. DT, I was surprised to hear you call this week's Dynamite the best organized episode of the year. What changed for me? What do I think? Do I think they will go back to the usual MJF routine with the Big Bang lead-in? Thank you for that, Ronnie. I said this week, I thought this Wednesday's Dynamite, although the rating didn't reflect it as good as last year, I thought this week's Dynamite was the best organized Dynamite of the year. It didn't feel like quarters were strategically placed to give an inflated number to MJF. MJF only drew, I think, 700,000 viewers during his quarter and a half segment. They opened up with other individuals. They had 2 hours building to Bryan Danielson's announcement that he ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So it was different. To me, it felt different this Wednesday's Dynamite. But I personally think the TV deal is done. I think strategically, I get it. By having MJF open up every Dynamite that he appeared on, except for 2, since he's been back this year, it gives the impression that MJF is the biggest draw of the company. But guess what, my friends? Over the last 2 out of the last 3 weeks, MJF is far for the biggest draw of the night. But you can't base it on weekly ratings. MJF overall is the most talked about person in AEW. You can't just simply base it on ratings numbers because people don't tune in just for one individual, and you don't get fans that will just watch the MJF segment and then turn it off for the rest of the night. The Big Bang lead-in, that's inflated. That's why when MJF opens up quarter 1 and then quarter 2 goes down 100,000 viewers, people are like, oh, MJF, once he was done, people were done. No. If you follow MJF quarter 3 this week, the rating didn't change. The rating changed, I think, 1,000 viewers. So what does that tell you? That additional fans did not tune in just for MJF, but additional fans did not tune out after MJF. So it stood steady. But this week, I think the TV deal is done. I think now with the TV deal finished, I think AEW is concerned more with better organization, better buildup. You know, you want to get as many fans to stick around for the entire 2 hours. It's not a 3-hour Raw. And that's a big difference between 2 and 3 hours. Trust me, SmackDown with 2 hours, those ratings are awfully freaking consistent for 2 hours. With Raw, when you get to hour 3, it drops a couple of 100,000 viewers because people are a little bit tired after 2 hours. You know, and you see some of the biggest buildups for a Raw main event, and it still draws a pretty subpar number. Whether it's Bo Dallas's in-ring debut as Uncle Howdy, or if it's, you know, a title match, or it's Gunther versus whoever, or Randy Orton versus Ludwig Kaiser, it's still 1.4 million, 1.6 million. That's usually the average when Raw goes off the air. That is far less than when they open at 1.8 million, 1.9 million. So I think AEW now, I'm hoping that they now focus on better organization. Because if they do that, and it's not going to change overnight. You know, I brought this up this week that no one took notice of. Last year with AEW All In, last year was a CM Punk Jack Perry fallout. That Dynamite, after AEW All In, the rating was only 1,000 viewers different from the week before. This week it was 5,000 viewers different from the week before. What does that tell you? It wasn't just this year. Oh my God, they had no bump from All In. They didn't have one last year either. And you would think, oh my God, they're in Chicago. Oh my God, what's going to happen on Dynamite? How are they going to address it? Are they going to even mention it? And it had no bump. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. Big Daddy. What's up, Big Daddy? Thank you for the 5 spot. Rest in peace, Fat Man Scoop. I heard your tribute on last night's show. It sucks. He died so young, but he went out doing what he loved the most. Couldn't have said it better, my friend. Couldn't have said it better. I actually have a line tomorrow about Sid. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and some loser website that has an insane amount of viewers wrote, rest in peace to the biggest, worst main event work rate. It was something like really stupid. I'm like, do you have to be a dick all the time? And we were talking about his quality of his matches, and I just said in passing, I said, you know what? Sid didn't have 5-star matches. We didn't want Sid to have 5-star matches. We just wanted 5-star entertainment. And Sid gave us 5-star entertainment, even when he was in ECW. I mean, watch those clips that are floating around Twitter. The fucking crowd is losing their minds with Sid just doing power bombs. Those fans went home happy that day. I got to see 1 or 2 events with him live and in person, and the buzz in the building was insane. At one point in 1995, 911 got insane pops from the fans, and look how his career turned out. But, as far as Fat Man Scoop, man, 53 years old, way too young to die. And it's just bizarre that I got to see him in December, up close and personal. And he does the same shtick whenever he MCs parties, and he did the same thing this weekend in Connecticut, and TMZ has the video. And he just yelled out to the fans, make some noise, and he collapsed and he died. Just awful. I just wonder, I know the Fat Man thing was his gimmick, but I wonder if he stood, up with his doctors. It just goes to show you can go at any time, at any age, but, sometimes you wonder if someone keeps up with their doctor's appointments. Me, I keep them religiously. Because, I'm scared. When you get older, you start thinking, holy shit, there's a possibility that I could drop. My uncle died at 56. My grandmother died at, 61? On my father's side, they just don't die. They all lived in their 90s. I think my great-grandfather was 102. But, I have more, I think, of my mom's genes than my dad's genes. So, but yeah, rest in peace, Fat Man Scoop. I was a fan of his work back in the Crooklyn Clan days of the late 90s. And a lot of those party songs, he was responsible for. So, Kappa the Great, on the 3rd anniversary of her passing, may Daphne rest in peace. Yeah. I still, on my desk, I look at behind me, right there. That always stays there. Look. No joke. Look at this. These are all license plates. When we donated to all the trees that were planted in her honor, we gave away a ton of license plates. I had them made up. I had them custom made, the Daphne license plates. And she'll always stay up there. As long as I do video, she'll always be on that wall behind me. Can't believe it's 3 years already, man. Seriously. It's unbelievable. I still remember that night. You remember the tile coming down? When that happened, it was bizarre. And then when the Bray Wyatt moth flew by, when people say, do you believe in like UFO, the extracurricular stuff or whatever it is? Do you believe in, the paranormal? Yeah, I do. And I got 2 video clips to back it up. For anybody who's newer to these shows, Daphne was a good friend of mine. I was friends with her for 20 years. had a lot of very, very personal, very, very deep conversations about things that I would never make public. Consider her a very close friend. And I tried so hard to get in touch with her and couldn't. And we were doing the show live here, and she had streamed like a half hour before, and we know what she ended up doing. And when people were reporting that, you know, they believed that she did what she did, I don't remember what time it was. It might have been like 8:30 or 8:40 in the evening, but a ceiling tile came popping down from my ceiling, and it's on video. You've never seen it happen before. You've never seen it happen after. I don't have any magical button that I could press a button and things start happening in this place. And when I saw the police report of what happened and the timestamp of what they believe is the time that she passed, it was 1 minute before that tile came down. And I honestly thought that was a sign of her telling me that she was okay. And I know that sounds bizarre, but it felt like it was a sign. It just like, why would something come down? And then Bray Wyatt, my favorite wrestler of the last 10 plus years, and we paid tribute. We were talking about that life vest. And when I said that he left the life vest in the car, went to sleep and never woke up, a fucking moth flies by and hits me in the face. People think I use special effects. People think that I planned that. I bought on eBay a fucking trained moth and said, okay, you stay on the wall. And as soon as I say woke, you've come flying over and hit me in the face. It's just, that's freaky. That's weird. It's bizarre. And it's on video. But I miss her. I do. I really do miss her. She had a lot of issues with concussion syndrome, a lot of headaches that would drive her mad. And unfortunately, drinking, eating, taking medicinal items to try to numb the pain, numb the depression, not being able to do the things that she used to. She was somewhat embarrassed being in public at times because she wasn't the, thin scream queen that we knew. There was a lot of things going on with her, and that was her way to handle it. So real shame, man. Real shame. Real shame. Rest in peace, Daphne, man. Rest in peace. All right. Nicholas Brosnan. Thank you for the 7 spot, my friend. What are my thoughts on the Nikki Bella? I'm not laughing at that, but, I get gas when I think about this story. What are my thoughts on the Nikki Artem situation? Have I heard anything? I covered it on this morning's news report and yesterday's news report. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his last name other than piece of shit. Piece of shitnikleff. Shitheadliff, Artem. All right. Quick opinion on this. People that are very close with the couple are not revealing their names, but they're telling TMZ and others that relationship has been volatile for years. There's been a lot of verbal abuse going on. No one knew of physical abuse. My honest opinion, I call bullshit on that. I think they just don't want someone to, if they ultimately get outed, get called out and say, why didn't you do anything about it? This Artem guy, there is no excuse whatsoever to lay your hands on anybody, let alone your wife. The story that's pretty much come out is that he's a bitter bitch, and he's a very moody person. And he's a very, what's the right word? Explosive person. Explosive is a word somebody gave me. I thought was really, really good way to describe him. And Dancing with the Stars had an option year to renew for him. They could pick him up for 1 additional year. And Dancing with the Stars last week said, no, we're not picking up your option year. So I just trying to be lighthearted yesterday, said to someone, I said, when Nikki Bella threw shoes at him, I wonder if it was his dancing shoes. They got into an argument. Nikki Bella threw a pair of shoes at him, and I heard that one of those shoes became a weapon. She got beat up pretty bad. And, I'm going to say something now that I said this morning that's going to be a little bit controversial, but, I'm not afraid to speak my mind. He called 911 because he was afraid about her injuries. I don't believe this. It's not being reported, but when I was talking to people online trying to get some additional info, there was one claim that he knocked her out and she was unconscious and he freaked out and called 911 and then she came through and then he called 911 back and said, never mind. And if you remember the infamous quote that Kev Castle said a couple of years ago that you can't cancel 911, he called back 911 and said, never mind, everything's fine over here. And the fucking dispatcher told paramedics and fire, go back to your stations. Based on an abuser calling back 911 and saying, no, never mind, everything's fine. And the fucking dispatcher called fire and EMS and said, no, you could go back to your stations. But the cop said, no, we're still fucking showing up. The cops showed up, and as soon as they saw that she had visible injuries, they arrested him. Now, some people called me out on something that I said this morning that I forgot to add to it. I said that I had a personal situation involving me that, I don't mind telling. And it kind of explains a little bit more about the automatic arrest of Artem. If there's any sign of physical injury at all, the spouse is arrested. Me, myself, I'll give you an example of automatic arrest, and it involves me. Back in 2000, I was married for 6 months. I got the marriage annulled, erased. Never happened. It never happened. And I was having a lot of issues with my ex. And she didn't want to be bothered. I tried to make amends. She didn't want to be bothered. And her trailer park trash mother came up with this brilliant idea. Call the cops and tell the cops he threatened to kill you. And the cops will not only arrest him, but they'll file an order of protection and he'll never bother you ever again. So what does my ex do? She calls 911 and she says, my husband just called my job and just threatened to physically harm me. He said he was going to come down to my job and do this, and I'm scared. So she gives the cops my phone number. Now, I don't know any of this is going on. So my phone rings, and it's the Woodmere Police Department. And this is 24 years ago. It's the Woodmere Police Department. They said, you need to come down to our precinct. Otherwise, we're going to come and pick you up. And I said, for what? And they told me what I was being accused of. And I said, I never did that. I honestly never did. So they're like, well, you need to come down here and let's try to straighten this out. So I drive all the way to Woodmere myself. I walk into the precinct. Before I could say a word, they put the cuffs on me. And they put me in a holding cell. And then they interviewed me and they said, what happened? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And they said, you threatened your wife. And I said, no, I didn't. And then they told me that she said that you called her job and threatened to go down there and pull her out of the job or some stuff. And I'm like, officer, she works for Credit Counseling Services. Every call is recorded. Go pull the calls and see if you hear that at all. I never did that. I swear to God, I never did. So they said, well, we can't just call the job and this and that. So I had to stay overnight in a holding cell. And the next day the court released me on my own recognizances, did not have to post bail or bond. And then eventually the detective contacted my ex and confronted my ex. Did he actually do this? He says that all the calls are recorded. Before we start doing all this, did he actually say that? And she admitted that I never said that. And they were going to arrest her because she filed a false 911. They didn't arrest her. They asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I said no. I just want these psycho bitches to stay away from me. And everything got dropped. I have no criminal record, never went to anything, but I had to spend the night in jail because the cop said to me that if you threaten someone on a telephone, immediate arrest. No ifs, ands, or buts. You are arrested, period. So when you hear or when you see TMZ with the cute red lettering, automatic arrest, they could find a tiny little scratch on Nikki's face, and the cops will arrest him. But, the reason why I believe it was really fucked up is because he was held on $25,000 bail. Not bond, but bail. If anybody that's followed me a long time, you know how the bail and bond process works. For those that are newer, when you hear somebody held on $50,000 bond, oh my God, $50,000 bond. Yeah, it only costs $5,000. When you buy a bond, it costs 10% of whatever the bond is, and you got to put up collateral. So if I'm arrested tomorrow and I'm held on $50,000 bond, I just got to come up with $5,000, show that I have $50,000 in collateral, and I'm out of jail. When you are held on $25,000 bail, you got to come up with 25 G's. You do not hold someone on 25 G's for a little scratch. He did a number on her. Now, here's my controversial question. Nikki, through her agent, said, please give us our privacy at this time. And despite her name wanting to be anonymous in the police report, TMZ posted the 911 calls. And Nikki Bella was mentioned. He said she threw shoes at him. He got mad. He fought back, and he was concerned about injuries, blah, 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 blah. So my question to you is this. Under no circumstances should Nikki Bella have had a finger laid on her. But, this is not about violence, but it's something else. When she runs to Variety, when she says, oh my God, everyone, I went from Kleenex to Cottonelle. Report it. I'm now using Cottonelle, tissues, Kleenex, bye-bye. When she goes and talks about, oh, I got new lipstick color. When she wants every aspect of her life told to the world. Should people not report this because she's a victim, or because you put yourself out there so much that no, people are going to talk about it, and you can't be mad about it because you want every aspect of your life when it's good? So I feel bad for her, and she should not stay in a toxic relationship like that, even if she is the nastiest, sarcastic bitch that pushes all the right buttons. She doesn't deserve to get a hand put on her. If you remember the night with the Benoit stuff, if you remember the 4.5-hour show that we did, we were talking about Nancy. And I didn't know Nancy personally. I had people who I became friends with in wrestling that were friends with her and this and that. And before anything ever happened with the Benoit tragedy, people used to say that you do not want to get on the wrong side of Nancy. She will make you feel this big. And we were trying to speculate what the fuck happened that night. What would make Chris go over the edge? Whether it's concussion, steroids, drugs, whether whatever it is, what pushed him over the edge? And the only thing that we could even think about was, she had, I think, filed for a separation or divorce once or an order of protection. There was something filed like a year or two before, and they got back together. And the only thing that we thought of at the time, remember, this is as it was happening, we thought was she probably threatened to leave him. She probably threatened to expose all of the crazy amounts of steroids that he was taking. She probably threatened to take his son away from him. And he fucking snapped, and he did what he did. I don't care how much of a bitch or she could have been, or nasty or threatening. You do not put your hands on someone, period. And it doesn't matter if they're going to ruin your life or they're going to expose your deepest, darkest secrets. That doesn't warrant someone putting your hands on him. And this guy, Artem, to me, he just looks like a piece of shit. He sounds like a piece of shit. He sounds toxic. And unfortunately, the more you hear, you don't wish any harm on her, but you almost like, wow, they're kind of like perfect for each other. As weird as that sounds. If I'm Nikki Bella, get out of that fucking relationship. Take your son, get out of there. Get out of there. That's my honest opinion. Because, just the fact of what you hear, then you hear never mind. You just laid out your wife and you were concerned that it was really, really bad. And because she came through, you call back 911 like, never mind, everything's fine. No, it's not fine. That's my honest take on it. Benoit with a 5-spot. Doesn't mean to sound like Bischoff or Rikishi, but no matter what AEW does, they can't get his interest. He thinks Excalibur is such a negative. I used to be a fan of Excalibur's. I'm not so much anymore. I kind of am used to him, but I do find myself watching AEW a little bit more than before Forbidden Door. I think a little at a time, listen, again, ignore the people on social media that think they have the answers. This is years of buildup. This is years of neglect. This is years of people writing in capital letters and big emojis. This cinema. This is wrestling where the best wrestle. Every time I heard that phrase, where the best wrestle, it sounded like 1995 WCW, where the big boys play. Anybody remember that from that? It sounded so much like Tony Khan was ripping off Bischoff. WCW, where the big boys play. AEW, where the best wrestle. That's fine. But when you got your Gunthers and your AJ Styles and your Seth Rollins and your CM Punks and your Randy Ortons and your Drew McIntyres and it just goes on and on and on, and the Finn Balor's, and yeah, it's not as lopsided as you think. Look, AEW is not for everyone. That used to be a catchphrase for ECW. Some of you may not know this. ECW, it's not for everyone. That was their catchphrase in 1995, I believe it was. They sold the shirt. ECW, it's not for everyone. AEW is not for everyone. No one is telling you have to become a fan one day. That goes for any of you out there. If you are not a fan of TNA, if you're not a fan of WWE, if you're not a fan of AEW, if you're not a fan of GCW, MLW, New Japan, All Japan, everything Japan, Stardom, that's your right. That is your right. I'm a fan of many genres of music. I don't like country. I don't like hardcore rap. I don't like, I don't like breakbeat. There's a lot of things that I don't like. It's my right. So just because you're not a fan of AEW doesn't mean that you are doing anything wrong. Doesn't make you immediately a WWE flunky or this and that. You just got to, like what you like and never feel like you're doing something wrong. And that's the damage that a lot of people did online. The ones that are trying to claim they have the solutions right now are the same people that told you when you didn't want to watch AEW for a couple of years, what is something wrong with you? What are you, stupid? This is the greatest stuff. Oh, this is it's Swerve and Hangman Page, the blood dripping in his mouth. It's the most epic thing that I've ever seen in my lifetime. If that's the case, something is wrong with you. It was a great fucking match and a great storyline. But when you put the most epic, amazing, unbelievable thing, that makes me make you look weird. Doesn't make me want to watch the match more. It makes me want to say, are you okay? Is there something wrong with you? And believe me, I tell you, even though Tony Khan comes off as this Afro pothead, rich bitch kid that might have some behavioral issues, we won't go there tonight. I think he is smart enough to look at these people on social media and be like, oh my God, could you try to give me a hand job enough? Could you let up on the hand job? I think Tony Khan looks at some of these people online and oh my God, are you that desperate for acknowledgement? I think a lot of people in AEW look at some of these people online and be like, my God, go touch grass for real. Go watch AEW and touch grass. Bring the TV outside and touch grass. Everything is amazing, unbelievable, the greatest thing ever. I'm shaking, I'm crying, you're not crying, I'm crying, I'm not crying, you're crying. Oh my God, this is Bryan Danielson, greatest of all time. Yeah, there, I said it. Best moment, better than the yes movement. There, I said it. When you got to say, there, I said it, you're basically saying, everyone, please look at what I'm saying. I need acknowledgement. I need to feel like what I'm saying is relevant. I need to feel like I made a powerful statement. There, I said it. There, I don't care what you said. You have an opinion, I have mine. There, I said it. Some very, very weird people online, man. And I don't think any of these companies acknowledge them. And you see sometimes some people online, how come I never get acknowledgement? How come I can never get this? How come I go to these events and I can't even get a pass? How come I can't? Because you're kind of like a weird wrestling fan that think that you are the big solution. Joshua Lavachek. I thought it said R at the end. Lavachek. Been a fan since he was a kid. Thanks for everything, DT. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you for making me feel very old. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Very, very kind of you. I can't thank you all enough for still supporting me and supporting Kev and seeing us growing in 2024 and rebuilding. It's going to be a long time for us to rebuild. We lost a lot of supporters because we split for several years. And we are back, but we're back for the right reasons. And we still love wrestling big time. And we prefer to have fun and not ignore the problems, but try to look at the good stuff and build on that rather than staying on the negative. And you see how it's destroying some bigger podcasters out there. Without naming names, you look at their channel, look at a year ago and look at them now, and 95% of their content is anti-Tony Khan or AEW. Everything. And they're running out of topics. So now they got to make up stuff. And, when you see them bringing up dead people, that's when you know that they're really, really desperate at this point. Because the dead people can't show up and say, what are you, a fucking liar? I never fucking did that. I never said that to you. I was never, what are you, stupid? Watch. There's a steady decline going on with a few channels right now. And hey, they buried themselves. Oh yeah, OTS Tribal Queen, you're absolutely right. YouTube is littered with people podcasting just to regurgitate the same stuff. That's why a majority of our footprint is outside of YouTube. Because I cannot, and I admit this, I cannot compete when 90% of the shows out there are all sensationalized negative. And it's very, very difficult to overtake that. People like to see train wrecks. People like to see, you go on Twitter and you have a feed and you see two people getting out of their cars and beating each other up. for no reason whatsoever, we're probably going to stop and watch the stupid clip, even though we're like, what are these people, stupid? But we end up watching it anyway. And you have all these people making this outrageous stuff. It's the popular thing, but sooner or later, people get tired of it and people will move on. And that's why I think Kevin and I are still able to do this for over 20 years. You know, honestly, you look at our synopsis for the last 3 months, and 95% of the synopsis is not ragging on AEW. We address AEW, we criticize it where needed, but 95% of what we talk about is not a generic trash AEW post. We try to do everything but that. You look at the news reports, we cover everything. Did you ever think I was going to cover New Japan and Stardom and GCW and this? You know, we're trying to expand a little bit, but I appreciate that, Joshua and everybody. So, Dream 101 says Cody may feel stale for some reason because he was acting like a champ for 2 years. Now he is actually the champ and he's doing the same thing as before. I don't think Cody is stale. I think the problem with Cody is pretty easy actually to explain. He's dusty. He's dusty. He's obviously not the shape of Dusty. He doesn't have the same charisma as Dusty. Cody doesn't come off as the common man like Dusty did. But where he is Dusty is Dusty chased the title too long back in the day. At that time, it was okay. But once Dusty won the championship, then it's like, oh, listen, I'm going to say something now. OTS Tribal Queen, she's a female. Please do not consider me a perv, anybody out there, but this is the best way I could explain it. Dusty Rhodes is like an orgasm. Dusty Rhodes is not one of the greatest world heavyweight champions of all time. He's one of the greatest wrestlers and entertainers of all time, but he's not one of the greatest world champions of all time. If you add up his 3 reigns or whatever it was, it's less than a couple of months combined. It's a couple of months combined. He never had any long reigns because what Dusty Rhodes was for a very, very long time is, you know, foreplay, teasing, foreplay. Oh, you know, edging, this and that. And the minute Dusty Rhodes has defeated Harley Race to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, orgasm. Now you're like, ooh, what next? Oh, let's light a cigarette and relax for a little while. And then you realize, oh, well, yeah, the deed is done. Dusty is at the mountaintop. And Dusty could not stay on the mountaintop because they didn't have, other than a Harley Race rematch or a feud with Ric Flair, or they didn't have a whole crop of opponents that Dusty could remain champion for the next year and have all these legendary feuds and he could have a memorable record, historic run. No, everything about Dusty was the chase. And once Dusty made it to the mountaintop, then it was like, ooh, we made more money with him chasing the belt, not having the belt. Now with Cody, it's different. WWE's having record numbers right now with revenue, but it's not any one person. It's not Cody. It's not the Bloodline. It's not, you know, Judgment Day. It's not any one person. It is a collective effort. So Cody Rhodes is not stale right now. But Cody Rhodes' problem is he chased it for so long that once he got there, it's like, okay, one of the greatest things about championship belts is when you have matches and you can't figure out who's going to win. Like tonight, I'm rooting for Joe Hendry to beat Ethan Page for that championship. My gut feeling tells me Ethan Page will retain, but I really think that Joe Hendry has a legitimate chance of winning. That's a match I want to see. because I really cannot pick a winner. But for me, many times when I see a match and I already could say who is going to win and keep their belt, the only reason why I watch it anyway is if the match is solid. Gunther Randy Orton's a great example. People were trying, I could see Gunther dropping that title and going to SmackDown and feuding with Cody to go into next year. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but you got The Rock and you got other things going on and you got Randy Orton with a heel turn and Randy Orton's not going to stay on Raw. So it kind of like doesn't make any sense. But people tried to convince themselves like, ooh, if Gunther loses, he'll go to SmackDown and Randy Orton will stay on Raw and it'll be a whole different ball game and this and that. And I'm like, props to you to convince yourself that something's going to happen when it's not. But when you can't pick a winner, that's when wrestling is at its finest. When you have Macho Man and Hogan, nobody could pick one side or the other. Even Hulk Andre WrestleMania 3, a ton of people thought that Andre was winning it. How could Hogan overcome him? And then there was enough people that said Hogan is going to do something that nobody could do, beat the undefeated Andre the Giant, even though he was defeated a few times. When you can't pick a winner, Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. I know I keep saying Hulk Hogan intro of the show tonight, and that's probably why he's on my mind. But Cody, his chasing for 2 years, he won it. And it's like, oh, let's give him Logan Paul. Oh, let's give him Kevin Owens. Oh, let's give him Solo Sikoa. None of them have a chance in hell of beating Cody, but that's what we'll do. And then we'll get to Randy. We'll get to maybe Rock. And then, so they obviously did not have a follow-up plan, not a backup plan, but a follow-up plan to keep that suspension of disbelief that Cody could possibly lose and lose quick. Plus, you got to also understand Roman Reigns' reign was so long that anybody that follows, you can't drop the title right away. Roman has it for a couple of years, and then somebody wins it and then loses it after a month or two. People are like, the fuck was that? So you kind of put Cody in a position that he had to keep that belt for a certain amount of time to have legitimacy for getting to that point, and that's what we're getting right now. That's how I look at it. All right, we'll go back to Super Chats in a little bit. Let's go to the chat room because there's quite a few very good people there. Some of you, we brought it up a few times over the month. Some of you, I guess either weren't tuning into the content or maybe forgot, but as we said several times last month, that September 1st, all the channel memberships will just be one tier going forward. This way, everybody gets the same bonus content. Everybody gets the same, chances of winning in the contest. Everybody gets the same Patreon shows, the same DTKC archives, everything the same. So that started as of today. What YouTube did do is that anybody who was on a previous tier got their membership from last month refunded. So nobody was charged for the prior month. So going forward, there will just be one tier. And some of you are very, very generous of saying you should have a one tier that's a little bit higher, no additional stuff, but anybody that wants to help the shows a little more, maybe we'll look at that down the line. But going forward, starting today, there's just one tier. Daily news updates, everything, everybody gets the same thing. So we don't have to sift out and sort out. Then somebody DMs me, how come I can't see this? Or how come this person has access? Make it easier, simpler. Jeff would like to know, do I think the announcer's table spot is overdone in the WWE? Yes and no. It's overdone because it seems like everybody is doing it. But it's not overdone because it still looks impressive. It sounds impressive. It feels like it's doing damage. It's just a question of what they do on the table. If you notice, I noticed this. And I notice it happening on WWE television more now than ever before. You're starting to see spots on the table where the table doesn't break. We've seen DDTs, we've seen RKOs, we've seen Cody Cutters, we've seen numerous spots where the table does not break. I could tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, as recent as maybe a year or two ago, whenever somebody would take a bump and the table did not break, people always like, oh my God, I hope that person's all right. The table didn't break. The table didn't break. But people realize now that the tables are rigged to collapse. And then sometimes they're rigged not to collapse. So, it's all about design. But WWE, more often now, they do spots where the table does not break, just to try to mix it up a little bit. Obviously, if you get a powerbomb someone, table's got to break. If you do a splash onto someone who's laid on a table, that son of a bitch has to break. There's spots where the table must break. It's overdone, but it's different. There's different moves being done at different times. And I think the Shield powerbomb might be somewhat overused right now, but it's good because of who's doing it. And you best damn believe that Roman Reigns and the Usos will be ultimately powerbombing Jacob Fatu through the announcer's table. Solo Sikoa will be one. Tonga Loa fucking powerbomb him off the building. Seriously, just like throw him off the edge of the building. Like Big Show with the monster trucks with Hogan that time on Nitro. What was that arena from Cobo Hall, I think it was? Do a Cobo Hall on Tonga Loa. We won't be upset. I promise you. It'll be okay. Tonga Loa will be fine. He'll show up in a diner later on that night and take pictures with people. Cobo Hall. I remember that place. Cobo Hall. Kevin is asking, Nikki Bella is co-hosting Kobayashi versus Joey Chestnut Labor Day eating showdown. Who's going to win? I don't think Nikki Bella's going to do it. Labor Day's tomorrow. I don't think she's doing it. I honestly think she will not be seen in public. And if she is seen in public, that will be interesting because if I'm Nikki Bella, I don't go. And honestly, I don't think anybody would have any issue with her not going. I'm going with, I'm rooting for Joey Chestnut, but a lot of people think that Kobayashi is just so insane with the hot dog eating. Me, I could care less. I don't want to see him choke, but I'm just not into it. But if I'm forced to root for someone, I root for Joey Chestnut because I just like the name. It just reminds me of someone from my neck of the woods. Yo, DT, what the hell did you say to Joey Chestnut? I called Joey Chestnut. He said you told him, like it just sounds like a little bit mafioso. So Ralph says she's already been seen in public. TMZ had her today on a flight. Really? Whoa. Cover up, maybe? Cover up? If she's wearing sunglasses and she doesn't take them off, then she might have had it in the eye. Look, she's got to have visible injuries. That's why he was arrested. I don't know. I think she should not be moderating this because people are going to be asking her those questions. And, she's the center of attention. She's always been the center of attention. She can't actually think that, please respect my privacy. Okay. I just don't see that. She's going to be the focal point other than these people with the hot dogs. So, by the way, Ralph, I thank you very much again, my friend. I didn't forget about you. A lot of you out there know that Ralph Ramirez is the one that gave me the video for this, my original indie wrestling debut as an on-air character back in 2006. Was it 2006? I think it was 2006. with 2000. Yeah, it was 2006. He gave me the video. I do have the video here. I don't know if anybody wants to see it. If you want to see it, I could play it now. It's about 10 minutes long. It's the first ever thing I ever did on camera in indie wrestling, and it got sabotaged. And, we had some problems converting the video because our video had some pretty funky formats at that time. You simply couldn't burn the video, but I got it. By the way, before we even consider playing that, can someone give me some of the results from NXT No Mercy? Because I know Axiom and Nathan Frazier, we already talked about it. They won the tag team championships, and Ridge Holland turned heel on Chase University. We know that Kalani Jordan retained the NXT Women's North American Championship, defeating Wendy Chu. I'm assuming Oba Femi retained his NXT North American Championship, defeating Tony D. Can we get a little confirmation on that? I want to know what happened with the other matches. I really want to see if they put that belt on Joe Hendry. I almost feel like they got to do it. So, yeah, as in, yeah, LA Knight, or yeah, Obafemi, or yeah. Okay, yeah, we know Ridge Holland turned. What was the outcome of Obafemi and Tony D? It had to have been Obafemi. You just can't have Tony D be the one that dethroned Obafemi. Yeah, thank you, DeMarcus. Obafemi did retain. Do we have, I think Roxanne Perez retains against Jada Parker. Jada Parker is not ready to be women's champion. That's not a knock on Jada Parker. Absolutely too soon. Unless Roxanne Perez is getting called to that main roster. Yeah, Sinister says that Roxanne Perez retained. So I guess that just leaves us one match left, correct? I think that's one match left. What time are we at? We're at 9:30. Oh, so NXT started at 7 o'clock today. So they got to be coming close to the finish now. K2 Mac, better entrance, the Ultimate Warrior Goldberg. Putting favorite wrestler themselves aside, I think Goldberg's entrance was better. It was, I don't know, it was cool. I mean, when Doug Dillinger used to knock on the door and Goldberg used to come out and all the security was around him. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I remember doing my hotline at the time because I started my hotline in 97. And I do remember doing my hotline. I do remember people leaving me messages and saying, DT, why does he have all the security around him? Is anybody threatening to beat him up? Like, he goes down to ringside. Nobody's trying to touch him. Why does he need all the security around him? And I was like, it's actually a good point when you think about it. Like, why did he need all that security? But, once he came down into the rampway and he was breathing in all the pyros and then he breathed it out, it looks like he was a dragon. The only thing that I always wondered at that time was down the line, is Goldberg going to sue professional wrestling because he got some type of lung illness because of breathing in all the pyro smoke? But apparently no. DeMarcus says Julia debuted. Very, very cool. So Julia probably, you remember we said either Julia or Cora Jade might be the one that Roxanne Perez and Jada Parker was looking at. But if they were looking and it was Julia, like, how come we didn't see Julia? And why would they be quiet about it? So I think one has nothing to do with the other. I have a feeling Julia debuting has nothing to do with what we saw in the back. And I think Cora Jade is on the cusp of returning. So you may get Julia, Cora Jade, and Stephanie McClure all on NXT TV. And if I'm a betting man, you put them on October 1st's CW debut. You put them on October 8th's head-to-head with Dynamite Tuesday. So I'm going to go with Goldberg. Goldberg's entrance was better. All right. Kevin is asking, how does Sheamus and Sting to a lesser extent wrestle with actual spinal stenosis? For Sting, he never really left his feet all that much. I mean, I know he would do some of his finishers, but Sting did not have to take back bumps, often. And, when you have spinal stenosis, you're not crippled. I mean, you obviously have issues and a lot of pain, but it can be managed. Sheamus had a lot of treatment, a lot of physical therapy, and a lot of rehab, and he was able to recover. Not everybody could recover. To the average sedentary person who just like sits at a desk or, just lives a regular lifestyle, we don't work out enough. We don't go to therapy enough to be in a position where we could possibly cure spinal stenosis. Sheamus was able to get to the point where he found relief. And there is treatment for spinal stenosis, but Sheamus, they got to be careful with. Sheamus's career is not going to be that much longer, but while he's around, he is strong enough that he can do what he's doing. Chaos, how's my mom and dad doing? They're okay. I was with them yesterday. They're going to be going to Florida on the 5th of September for about a week. My mom is going to be undergoing another surgery for her breast cancer, I think in about a month. So they're going to go to Florida next week to get just a little bit of, a little bit of a break from all the doctor's appointments that she's been going to. So this is going to be interesting because not only am I going to be having my dogs here, but I'm going to be bird watching also. So I'm going to have a pair of dogs here. A lot of you know what they look like. Both of my dogs and my African gray is going to be here as well. So, that's going to be interesting next week. Plus, my wedding anniversary is Tuesday, this Tuesday. Believe it or not. I mean, I don't like putting personal stuff on here, but if anybody that's interested, this is how it started, how it's going. That is 2 years ago on the right. This Tuesday is my 2-year wedding anniversary. So my Patreon episode that we normally do on Tuesday, we're not doing it until Wednesday because I'm trying to score Tuesday night. So, no, I'm just going to have a quiet dinner with my wife, no wrestling stuff. So Tuesday night, it's going to be private time. I don't get the bird till Wednesday. So my wife and I will have a nice quiet Tuesday, and then chaos, no pun intended, Guardian, but chaos will ensue starting Wednesday for a week. So yeah, that's legit. That on the left, that is me and my wife when we first met back in 2012. So yeah, that is 12 years ago on the left. And that is us now. I don't think we changed that much. I don't know. I think my wife has gotten prettier. And I don't know how she would take that too. She might turn around and say, well, was it uglier 12 years ago? See, like that's an example where you give somebody a compliment, and then you think about it and like, well, maybe that's not actually a compliment. So, somebody told me the other day they can't believe I'm 55. I don't feel 55, but I am 55. So, all right. We have another super shout out, and then I think we may play that video. We might play that video. We may play that video. Bernard with a 5-spot. Watching Triple H booking makes you realize how senile Vince was in the end, doesn't it? Thank you for the memories, but he had to really go. Listen, I just happen to have the banner in my computer. I am really looking forward to this 6-part series because it is going to document everything about Vince from the 70s up to now. We discussed it on the news reports this week, but putting the Janelle Grant stuff aside, putting all the other accusations aside, what I think Vince McMahon's problem has been for many years now is he became lazy. He became complacent. He put WWE on cruise control too often. Oh, what are we going to do tonight? Give him the Usos and a New Day. They'll like it. Remember Randy Orton and Sheamus? Yesterday, everybody loved doing a wave. I think, Randy Orton had flashbacks with Sheamus. People forget they did the wave at that time, and people on social media, that is the most disrespectful thing that wrestling fans could do to the wrestlers. How dare you do the wave during it? Yeah, the wave sometimes can be fun. Vince just became lazy. He was making money. You know, when you're 80 years old or 75 years old, whether you're making 50 mil or 70 mil, and you don't know even where to spend it, you know, it's like, whatever. He just was complacent. There was no stress of urgency. That's what Vince's problem was. It wasn't that he was out of touch, because when push came to shove, we did have good moments in wrestling for years and years and years. You know, people look back at the Wyatt family. Vince was in charge for that. People look back at other feuds and storylines. Vince was in charge of it. He wasn't the sole person there, but he was involved. You know, we did have good shit. It's just that, you know, there was no sense of urgency. So for several years, especially with COVID, it was just, you know what? Let's just figure out how we can maximize our profits. They got to answer to the stockholders. They got the Saudi deal. We'll release 100 wrestlers. You know, we'll just make sure that we get as much profit as possible. And he made money, especially during COVID. He didn't have to worry about how many fans attended wrestling events for a year and a half. It was COVID. So let's just, you know, get by and just try to maximize what we can make money on, which was merchandise and subscriptions and Saudi Arabia and other things going on. And the stockholders were receptive to it. You know, at the end of the day, you know, everybody online was like, how dare you release people through a pandemic? But meanwhile, all the stockholders are like, you know what? That's managing business the right way. Stockholders are not nice people sometimes. Nobody, no investor alive is going to say, you know, he was such a nice man. He could have made $20 million more, but he kept an extra 100 people on his payroll because he felt bad because of COVID. That's someone I want to put my money behind. Are you crazy? I mean, what world? Star Trek? It's a Star Trek episode. That's not real life. So when you have social media, oh, Tony Khan, he didn't release anybody during the pandemic. I didn't see any ratings explode or pay-per-view buy rates explode because he didn't release anybody. You know, it's just somebody feel-good moment. No, when you have to answer to investors, you do what's best for business. When Vince would say that, he meant it. He just got lazy. He got complacent. They were making a profit. They were tightening the ship. And that was the result. That's what Vince's problem was. Triple H, you know, look, I know Vince Russo this year said that Triple H, he might be fired. I get that some people have said some outrageous things. Good for them. They made money on it. I'm not knocking Vince Russo or anybody for doing that. You could make money on it. Good for you, man. Seriously. I mean that sincerely. But I'll say this. It's owned by TKO Group Holdings. More than half of the board of directors are not wrestling people. Ari Emanuel is not a wrestling guy. Mark Shapiro is not a wrestling guy. They might be wrestling fans, but this is not a wrestling background. If Triple H starts fucking up, knows you're out of a job, my friend. Oh, Elizabeth. Oh, the big one. It's the big one. Stephanie. It's the big one. I don't care how weak your heart is. You ain't developing. You ain't giving us the numbers we want. You're out. That's what WWE is now. Bobby Lashley, oh, he deserves better. I'm such a big Bobby Lashley fan. And I see these dumb WrestleMania fucking brain dead articles. Bobby deserved better. What are you talking about? What do you mean he deserves better? Look at who they're focusing on right now. The stars of tomorrow. He deserved better. He had a fucking legendary career. If Bobby Lashley says, hey, boss, give me 100G, I'll stay. You don't have to push me. I'll help build the stars of tomorrow. Just give me 100 G. Bobby Lashley would be in that company right now. When Bobby Lashley, hey, I'm Bobby Lashley. I want 600,000, 700,000. Oh, you know what? Really not like, you're managing the Street Profits. Like, you've had your time. Right now, we're building the Braun Breakers. We're building the Bronson Reeds. We're building, the stars of tomorrow. We don't want to fall backwards. If we're going to fall backwards, we'll just call Brock, and we'll bring Brock in. That's who we'll bring in. Not the almighty Brock, not Bobby Lashley. He deserves better. For what? I mean, I'm not bashing Bobby Lashley, but I even think Bobby Lashley probably looks at even Jinder Mahal. I think Jinder Mahal has had his, I don't want to say come to Jesus moment. He's had his come to Allah moment where Jinder Mahal is like, I guess my time has come and by, come and gone. Right now it's not the right time. Maybe down the line there's a better spot for me, but right now, where do I fit in? Seriously. This is not a knock on those people, but right now, their cost is not worth it. If I have a store and I got enough people behind the counter cutting cold cuts and cutting meat, and then somebody becomes available that is a pretty damn good butcher, and then you say, okay, how much you want? $20 an hour? No, $55 an hour. Yeah, you could go work for Khan and Company down the block. We don't need you. We have enough people here. We don't, why do we need to overpay for you? Seriously. So that's how I look at it. Okay. Jinder Mahal, he's actually doing pretty good in the indie circuit. I'm popping for JBL. I'm just wondering why all of a sudden with JBL? Why didn't he do this a couple of years ago? I mean, probably WWE. Vince being out is probably the reason why. WWE is now go in the indies. Go make some money. Seriously, go make some money. Go make some appearances. Do what you want. Just don't go to the other con. To the other, semi-dark meat. I think that's what it is. JBL shows up at GCW. JBL shows up at AAA. JBL shows up at TNA. And right away, 5 ways JBL could be using AEW. Listen, if JBL shows up in AEW, that means there's no relationship with WWE right now. My father still owns a deli. He doesn't run it anymore because he's old, but he still owns a deli. He's just one salami short. He still have his salami. Tristan wants to know what was my reaction when I saw Kimona dance on the top of the ECW arena. I was like, I'm going to put that on a VHS tape with my other porn clips and I'm going to sell it for $20 a video. I made money on Kimona. And the funny thing is, she wasn't even naked. I still have one of those videotapes. I got to one day soon. I got to take the videotape out of the box and just show you the label. I sold those 20 some odd years ago for $20 a video, and I sold a lot of them. It was the Beulah porn. It was Live Bait with Chastity, who was in ECW and WCW. She went to WCW with Hack. It was Kimono Wanalea. It was the Tanya Harding honeymoon, the night she got married, where I guess they were banging in a bunk bed, and Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee on the boat. Those 5 clips I sold on eBay, all on one VHS tape. And the funny thing was, I felt 4 wasn't enough. I wanted one extra thing, and I put Kimono on there, and nobody complained, even though there was no nudity. Everything else was nudity, and put the Kimono thing on there, and we sold tons of them. Tons of them. I thought it was interesting. I mean, she was very, very attractive, and Raven brought her in because Beulah went with Tommy Dreamer, and then ultimately Tommy Dreamer ended up with both of them. Do you know something? I'll tell a quick story that some of you may not know this. This is a true story, and if you don't believe me, ask around. Just to show you how things have changed in the world. When Tommy Dreamer was having the feud with Raven, and originally Beulah was pregnant and she wasn't pregnant, Tommy Dreamer had Beulah in the ring, and then he had Kimona in the ring. And then Tommy Dreamer looks and says, I'll take them both. And Beulah and Kimona had a kiss, and then all three of them kissed. Do you know that MSG Network or Prime Network refused to air that clip? They would not show two women kissing at 2:00 in the morning for that episode, and Tommy Dreamer kissing with them. They would not show that. So we went to the Elks Lodge, I think a week or two later. And when we showed up at the Elks Lodge, they had boxes of videotapes at the door. And we walked in, and I still have mine. I swear to God, I still have mine. I wonder if it's worth anything. What they did was, because we were unable to see that episode on the MSG network for that week, they put it on a VHS tape, ECW, and gave every single person that walked into the Elks Lodge a free tape. Our video's the one that manufactured it. That is a true story. If anybody doesn't believe me, you could ask Gabe. You could ask Feinstein. You probably won't be able to get in touch with Paul Heyman, but ask around. You know what? Tommy Dreamer probably, that would be, you know what? That would be a great topic for any of you that are fans of Busted Open. When Tommy Dreamer takes questions, ask him, say, Tommy, is that true that the segment with you, Beulah, and Kimona, like it was so controversial that Prime would not air it and ECW gave away videotapes at the door, you know, the next time they were at the Elks Lodge? But just if you do that, just make sure you say, you know, I was checking out the Don Tony show, and he was telling us a story about going to the Elks Lodge and getting a free tape. He'll tell you that it's a true story. Real, true, legit. Just to show you how times have changed. And it was not controversial. You would have thought gay and lesbian groups would have gotten mad and said, why can you not show? I think they just figured, like, it's ECW, it's 2:00 in the morning, it's Prime Network. Fuck cares. Nobody made an outrage. The only people that made it outrageous was us guys, like, we want to see them kiss. But no, we didn't get it. I did watch a good portion of the Chris Van Vliet interview with Jesse Ventura. Excellent. I was a big fan of Jesse Ventura, and then I didn't like Jesse Ventura for some of his outrageous thoughts about politics in the world. But that interview made me a Jesse Ventura fan. It reminded me why I was a Jesse Ventura fan. I think Jesse Ventura at this stage of the game just wants to enjoy life. I thought it was great from what I've seen so far. You know, the extra interaction, Will Sasso and Karrion Kross was great. Jesse Ventura should have been celebrated a hell of a lot more in wrestling over the last 20 years. But obviously the relationship with Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura soured. And that is the reason why Jesse Ventura has not been around. The fact that Jesse Ventura, his time is come and gone, not just as a wrestler, but even as a character. Wrestling fans of today, like, oh yeah, Jesse Ventura, yeah, he was the governor, right? Yeah, he used to commentate. Yeah, I remember watching my grandfather's WWF tapes, and he was on it. Like, I don't think wrestling fans of today would give that big of a deal about Jesse. But the fact that he's still with us, it's cool to see that he's involved again a little bit. Scorpio 1117 is asking, what do I think of Mariah May as champion? I thought it was a little too soon. I thought Toni Storm getting revenge on Mariah May was probably the way they were going to go with AEW, having two heel champions. I didn't like the idea of it, but now with her as champion, I don't think her reign will be long. I think either Toni Storm will ultimately get it back, or someone else is going to show up out of nowhere and take it from her. Not just yet. I think Mariah May has done a great job. She's being rewarded for everything that she has done with the Toni Storm storyline. Toni Storm was getting rewarded every week. Now it's Mariah May's turn. And it gives Toni Storm a little bit of a break. So in hindsight, I don't have an issue with her having a championship. I think, she's doing a decent job. I mean, she hasn't really done anything yet. I mean, she hasn't even had a celebration yet. Obviously, that'll be interrupted. But, I don't have an issue with it all that much. Bernard would like to know, why didn't Elix Skipper work out? Guy was amazing. The problem is, you talk about Jada McDonough looking like a bobblehead. Elix Skipper looked like a bobblehead. That fucking neck, we used to call him a Pez dispenser. Seriously, I thought you would pull his neck back and candy would come out. Elix Skipper had this very, very long neck. Seriously, like, this was his neck, and this was like his head. This was Elix Skipper. In my house. He was good, but the problem was the X division was filled with tremendous stars. So Elix Skipper, he'll always be known for that spot off the cage on TNA. Outside of that, you don't hear anybody saying, oh, you remember when Elix Skipper had a match against, AJ Styles? All you hear is the spot on the cage. Elix Skipper was great, but he was a tiny fish in a pond filled with a lot of fish that were similar to him. But I liked Elix Skipper. I thought he was great. I kind of thought that he would have gone a little bit further in wrestling, but, I felt that way about several people at that time. So, Twix would like to know, who was at fault in Hogan versus Sting, Starrcade 98? Well, if you want to go with what Bischoff and the IWC and everybody else says, it's Hogan's fault. Sting cannot be blamed for anything. Shh, don't you dare talk about Steve like that. How dare you talk about Sting like that? Listen, Sting is one of the most beloved, well-liked wrestlers in history. That will never change. There's no closet with skeletons in it that Steve has a padlock on. If that closet opens, people will be like, he's not near. Like, there's no controversy. But that doesn't mean that Sting was like an altar boy. I mean, he just did the right thing, stood out of trouble, didn't mess with the wrong crowd. Sting had his own demands. I think sooner or later, you're going to get a podcaster, without naming names, that is going to dare say some negative stuff about Sting because they know they'll get 55,000 views and they'll get a whole bunch of people like, how dare you fucking try to rewrite history about Sting? And it's just going to be what it is. I look back at Starrcade 98. I look at a lot of things that went down at that time. There's always individual moments that are, you could rip apart and criticize. I prefer to look at the overall scope of wrestling at that time. 1998, 97, 98 might be my favorite 2 years of wrestling. And hear me out. 97 and 98 might be my favorite 2 years of wrestling that had WCW, ECW, and WWF all going on at the same time. I'm not talking about the Stephanie run ECW, not talking about WWE's ECW. I'm talking about 3 separate promotions still in business. ECW was around since 93, 92-ish, 93, when it was Eastern. But from 92 to 01, 97 and 98, I think is my favorite 12-month span of wrestling because of each product. And WCW I was a big fan of. Sting and Hogan Starrcade was not going to change my mind with that. I mean, everybody seemed to be on fire at that time. Romanowski. DT, could you see The Rock and Roman Reigns in the Men's Royal Rumble this year? I could. I smell food. And it doesn't smell good. I don't know what that is. It smells like ass. Smells like artichokes and ass. Sorry. Roman Reigns and Rock in a Royal Rumble. It's possible. The problem that I see with that is both are getting eliminated. I don't see The Rock winning the Royal Rumble and challenging Cody. I don't see Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble and challenging a champion. So that means both would have to be eliminated. And no, I don't believe that they will eliminate each other. I don't see them both in the Royal Rumble. If I were to choose, I'd say Roman would be in it. And let me make something clear. I know a lot of places have reported that Roman is not looking to win a championship anytime soon. That's not news. That's Captain Obvious. Roman is going to feud with the Bloodline. Obviously, no singles championships involved. That doesn't mean in storyline, Roman Reigns is not going to want to win a championship anymore. If you look at suspension of disbelief, the tribal chief, the champion, why wouldn't he want his championship back? If he comes out there and says, I don't need a title right now, kind of sounds kind of dumb, because the reason why you're in wrestling, first and foremost, is to be champion. I mean, obviously you want to settle rivalries and feuds and people settle scores, but the idea that Roman would not want to compete for a championship is kind of stupid. I don't see Rock in the Rumble, and I'm not sure if I see Roman in the Rumble either, but I could see Roman proclaiming himself in the Royal Rumble, and then obviously somebody eliminates him, but I don't see either one winning the Rumble. So what was the outcome of Joe Hendry and Ethan Page? I have a feeling Ethan retained. Because if Joe Hendry would have won, I think there would have been a ton of posts in the chat. Oh my God, Joe Hendry won. Come on, the title called his name. Did he appear? Ethan retained. Yeah. Yep. Kind of had a feeling. When does Joe Hendry win a belt? When do we start saying, all right, it's all internet hype and it starts a downtrend? He's got to win a championship. I don't want no digital media championship. Referee shenanigans. Sam says NXT was great tonight, 9 out of 10. I will probably be watching a lot of it tonight. We're going to finish this episode within the next 15, 20 minutes, maybe half hour. And then I got to record the wrestling news update. You know, there's a few things I have aside. Monday's show is going to be fun. Be prepared. We're going to have an interesting conversation about Tegan Knox. I don't want to like spoil it right now, but let's just say that Kevin Castle is a connoisseur with tattoos, and he will examine Tegan Knox's tattoos, and then we will see if she has a legitimate argument for complaints that she made in the last couple of days. Yeah, Tegan Knox. That's somebody that Kevin and I actually have talked about numerous times in the last month and a half. Yeah, she is not thrilled right now with her lack of usage. So I think she is destined to be let go. And I don't want to see anybody lose their job. But I really what do you use it for other than enhancement talent? We'll talk about it Monday. So Bernard is asking with a 2-spot, how come Kev Castle doesn't believe in Joe Hendry? You know, you'd have to ask Kev that, but from what my conversation I had with him, you know, Joe Hendry is a talented guy. If you look at some of his older matches, the guy could work. The internet phenomenon stuff and the concerts and the stuff that he's doing, it's entertaining to an extent, but it's a lot of hype. And I think some of the criticism from Kev is tongue-in-cheek. It's just, look, not everybody looks at the Joe Hendry thing and suddenly they're all aboard the Joe Hendry train. I think Joe Hendry has done a phenomenal job with getting his name out there. But as I said earlier, it gets to a point where you got to look at the companies that he's involved in and say, how come nobody is giving him a championship right now? You know, I mean, how much of it is hype? I mean, he looks good. He does great in the ring. You know, people were complaining that he lost at Emergence. I didn't think he was winning at Emergence. My prediction was the system. I thought he had a legitimate shot at winning the championship tonight because he's got to get a championship. There's got to be a reward for everything that he's done to this point, unless they're not going to start that run until he is a full-time WWE superstar, not split with TNA. Like right now, it's like, all right, he's technically still NXT material, not main roster material. So I think that's the reason why. You know, Joe Hendry is not suddenly drop everything, must-see TV, everybody gets behind him. But I like him. I personally think he needs a championship sooner than later, somewhere. And not just for Dick's Wrestling and Ribs promotion. Yeah, he's still got a way to go. You know, we're not comparing him to Fandango, but we remember the Fandango phenomenon. And it was more about the song than the wrestler. And I will never forget that night that John Cena acknowledged Fandango after the cameras went off the air. I think it was Raw or SmackDown, obviously. And, you know, everybody was like, wow, you know, John Cena even acknowledged him. And I still remember the people on the trains. And then after a while, you're like, you know, it's a catchy song, but they really were not into the guy as much. He was getting crazy pops, but, you know, then he became a comedy character with his tag partner. What was his tag partner again? Oh my God, Fandango and I see him right in front of my eyes right now. Tyler Breeze. Thank you, Michael. Breezango. And they became comedy, and then they went to NXT. I remember they were doing the skits, and they were all funny, but it just felt like WWE was jobbing them. I'll never forget this, and I'm sure a lot of you remember this. There was a match. I think it was against Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. And I remember, I think they brought brooms in the ring, and that night, everybody and their mother expected Breezango to win the belts. I'm almost 100% certain. It was either Gallows and Anderson or Harper and Rowan. And I think it was Harper and Rowan. And not only did they not win, but if I remember correctly, I think the brooms were like cracked in half. And it just felt like WWE's way of saying, listen, to all of you out there that thought these motherfuckers were going to get a run and get legitimized, no. They're comedy fodder. That's what it kind of felt like to me. How is Pretty Deadly any different? They're two totally different teams. Just because one has blonde hair and one has dark hair, and just because they're kind of comical doesn't mean that they're Breezango. Pretty Deadly are very annoying, international, snotty, you know, extravagant heels with an ABBA-type theme song that just rub you the wrong way and you want to just see them get bumped around. Breezango, most people liked. Breezango, most people wanted to see pushed. And WWE just never had any legitimate thoughts of taking them seriously. Like they were more feel good for the fans. Like, oh, I don't want to compare it to R-Truth, but it's almost like, all right, those two guys, they're meant for lighthearted fun, you know, some comedy, TV. Like we're not really like going to put them in the record books and have any legitimate runs and beat anybody substantially unless it's a major upset. But we'll just, you know, they're just fun. That's not how Pretty Deadly is looked at by fans at all. So I like Pretty Deadly. I liked them. I was very happy when they got brought to the main roster. And I'm not thrilled the way they've been used I mean, I think when Elton Prince, I think he's the one that was in the wheelchair. That shit was funny. But like once the team was fully recovered, that they could work together, doesn't seem like they've done all that much. The Street Profits, man. I look back at the last 3 years. Like if anybody said to me, DT, pick one tag team that has been the most used in the last couple of years, I think it's the Street Profits. And I don't even think it's close. Some other teams have not been used very well. Some people may say Gallows and Anderson. I just never thought Gallows and Anderson were going to become these legitimate big-time WWE superstars that would have these, long title reigns. And you look back at the history books and everybody's like, yeah, Gallows and Anderson. I think they're more like, I always thought they were more AEW or international than WWE. And I think that's because Carl Anderson doesn't, this is not a knock on Carl Anderson. It's just that Carl Anderson doesn't have that much of a personality that clicks with the WWE universe. Luke Gallows has a little bit more of a personality. When they were doing those wrestling satires and that stuff, that shit was funny. Carl Anderson can be, charismatic, but they don't use him that way. But the Street Profits, to me, I look back at the last 3 years and I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get. I understand the Usos needed to have that long reign for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to dethrone them. I get it. But since then, the Street Profits have just been, I don't even know what to call it. I just feel like beyond buried. I think, honestly, the Creed brothers have been used better than the Street Profits in the last year. All right. We're at 2 hours. I think we'll start bringing this home. I think what we will do is I'll show that footage. If anybody wants to stick around for it. If you don't, you could disconnect in the next couple of minutes. We'll finish up with that. I appreciate Richard Ramirez for burning this for me. Again, a little backdrop. This was my first ever appearance doing stuff on camera. And that night, I was feuding with Lowlife Louis Ramos, just to set it up briefly. And Louis was going to have a kid. And Louis wanted to legitimately retire from hardcore wrestling. And we were going to do a storyline where I was a money mark. And we felt that Louis' value was only hardcore. So every time Louis wanted to wrestle regular matches, we would put him against hardcore people. If he wanted to make money, and if he wanted to raise a family, and he wanted to earn his pay, he would have to do what we tell him to do, and that was to bleed and get his ass kicked. That was the storyline. So Louis legitimately was going to retire, and I was going to go out there and say, look, we know that you want to pull back a little bit, so we want to give you a regular match for tonight. And Abdullah the Butcher comes out and just destroys him. And after he destroys him, I look at Louis and I say, no, you're not done. You didn't earn your pay. You lost. You didn't earn your pay yet. And then we're going to bring out Mana, the Polynesian warrior, who was going to destroy him. And then after he was done, I was going to take out a $20 bill and say, okay, you earned your pay for the night. And I was originally going to shove the money down his throat. And he told me to staple it to his head instead. So I go in the ring, I staple it to his head. Never done anything before on camera, and a whole bunch of people in the crowd were trying to rag on me, trying to sabotage my shit. And that's how it started. But the funny thing was, they did an Abdullah the Butcher documentary behind the scenes that very same night. And I ended up on the documentary, and they were filming me and Louis going over the segment. And I had never done anything on camera before. So you see me in the back setting up what we were going to do. And Louis thought it was funny because he's like, this guy's taking this shit seriously. So Richard found the footage. And yeah, you will see a very inexperienced, very sweaty, yours truly, first ever time I ever did anything on camera. And remember, this was from an Abdullah the Butcher documentary. So you don't see everything that I did. You don't see me stapling the money. You don't see any of that stuff. We have a different video for that. That's for another day. But if you want to see what went on backstage leading up to this, here you go. 10 minutes. I hope you enjoy it. This puts a smile on my face because it kind of like fills a bucket list. I always wanted to show this footage. A lot of people thought that it never really happened. It never happened. Here you go.
Someone there will sell it good, get it going, we'll get in there. Once you start cutting the promo. So I'm going to say, for those who don't know, basically,
okay, how come I don't hear audio? I put my headphones on. I want to hear this. Do you hear this?
Someone there will sell it good.
Let me know if you could hear that, guys, because I can't hear it for some reason. You heard audio? Okay, so I can't hear it for some reason, but you can. So enjoy it, everybody. Enjoy it.
Someone there will sell it good, get it going, we'll get in there. Once you start cutting the promo. So I'm going to say, for those who don't know, basically, you're going to just feed me this kid, basically. The last show, you told me, you recently had a kid, being a father, soon-to-be husband, you wanted to tone it down a little bit. I promise you, if you would just wrestle in the next show, last minute. I fed you New Jack. No big deal to you, but you were hospitalized with lost a pint of blood. So I promise you, make it up for you. I was going to give you an easy night tonight. Because you told me you just wanted to wrestle. I fucked up. I gave you, New Jack, and you just wanted to show your wrestling ability. And I'm going to make it up for you tonight. I'm going to give you an easy opponent tonight. After looking at the entire UXW roster, I came up with this person. Is it all right with you? You look at it? No problem? Yeah. I shake your hand? Yeah.
You want me to even give you like
No, just give me a handshake. We'll do the pound, street pound. Yeah, brother, cool. Cool.
I'm going to say bring out his opponent.
Yeah, you bring out Pan.
And I'll just stand at ringside. I'll wait till you're done. When you start walking up and say, whoa, you ain't done yet, son. You ain't done yet.
No, wait till I'm in the ring.
This is what you want?
Abdullah is going to go up to the ring. So I got to wait. So just when I'm in the ring, right after I finish the Pan.
So when you go through the ropes.
Yeah.
I'll say, whoa, you're not done yet, son. Whoa, wait a minute. Does anybody out there think that he deserves this? For that? What he just did? No, son, you ain't done. He comes out, I get scared shit, I run away. After the match is over, you're laid out. I look down and I say, don't get up, you're not done, son. Rest. And then Mana comes out, destroys you, and I say, how dare you tell me who you want to face and how you want to face him? You don't tell us what to do. I paid a lot of money to be in a position.
This guy is taping, in-depth behind-the-scenes stuff.
And you know what's funny? I've never done this before in my life. Right. On camera. It's the first time.
I got the wrong guy. Didn't wear Rob friends. He's over there.
He's great.
Louis.
When I go out there now.
Why don't you talk about wrestling Abby?
I wrestled Abby back on July 18th. 2003 in the Oaks Lodge in New York. It was a great experience. About 20 years ago when I was 8 years old, I used to watch WWC on Channel 41 in New York, and I told my mother, Mom, I want to look just like that guy. And when I pointed at the TV screen, it was Abdullah the Butcher, and she didn't understand why I wanted to look like that. But the reason is right here, because I wanted to be a wrestler, and I wanted to be just like the Butcher, and all the hardcore legends like the Rottens, and all these other guys, Balls, New Jack. I want to be just like them. And I got another match with Abby, and we'll show the world what I'm all about.
20 years ago, I just watched WHT.
Funker, Anthony.
Really? Are you coming out now?
I'll just stand by the ring. And
I thought I'm doing the thing now. I thought I was coming out first and you...
I'll just stand by ringside.
All right.
You can even go on the mic, say, Anthony, come up here. And then I'll go on the mic. You say, Anthony, come up here.
Why ain't they playing the music?
All right.
Oh, okay.
I'll be standing at ringside, all right?
Yeah, big man. done. Watch out, guys. Watch out. Get back. Lashanda! Mafita! Abdullah Mafita! Lashanda! Abdullah Lashanda! Lashanda!
You want to earn your salary? 5 minutes ain't enough, son. You're not finished.
Shut up, he's ready to
if I'm going to pay your salary out of my own pocket,
haircut, Eddie Munster!
let me tell you something, Eddie Munster. Let me tell you something. You couldn't get a girl right if you dropped her in a pool, so I would shut the fuck up.
All right. I want to make something perfectly clear that I don't stress enough. Louis and Abby were the stars of this. I just happen to be a part of it. Got to always stress that. This was not about me. This was about them. And let me tell you something. Louis, I adored him to death. Still love that guy. Haven't talked to him much over the last bunch of years, but he wanted to fight Abby. That was bucket list for him. And just to be a little part of it was very, very special for me. He always went out of his way to try to make even the stuff that I did look good. And Ralph, that was not Doug Gentry's last filming. He did commentary when I went through the table with the thumbtacks and had the bottle broken over my head. Doug Gentry was on commentary that night, and I always went out of my way to thank him because he made me look good. And one day I'll play that video, but when you hear the commentary, the thing that always made me appreciate Doug Gentry, he didn't know me pretty much from Adam. We met a few times, but Doug Gentry, who was part of Ring of Honor, in our video, I should say, he was on commentary and I'm getting my ass kicked. I got a bottle broken over my head, a chair over my head. I went through a table filled with thumbtacks and everything else. And he noticed that the cameramen were like on the other side of the ring. And he's like, why isn't there cameramen over here? And when you listen back to the footage, he was doing everything possible to make what was happening to me feel that much better. And that was something I always appreciated. My stuff was not good. My stuff isn't anything, but the fact that I got to do something is something you can never, ever take away from me. And that's what makes it so special. So, yeah, I have a little bit of a pride factor sharing this with everyone out there. And there's other footage. There's other footage out there that I'm still working on locating. The day that Mr. Big sends me that footage from Spanish Harlem, Mr. Big, if you hear this, I will give you $500 for that footage. That is probably the holy grail of anything that I ever did. The stuff that I did with Sandman, Homicide was in that match, Raven was in that match, and the stuff that I did with Sandman in the ring was so good that I think even those that hate me would probably say, you know what, that was a pretty fucking fun moment. Everything worked perfect, especially that the crowd was mostly Puerto Rican and black. And trust me, it was not a racial thing. We just happened to be in Spanish Harlem that night. But when I brought air freshener, I sprayed it around ringside because I said, this place smells like shit. And I got nervous after a while because I thought, oh my God, I'm in a building filled with Puerto Ricans and blacks. And here's this Italian Guido saying everybody smells like shit. Like I'm going to get my ass kicked at the end of the show. And when it was over, I was around ringside and a bunch of people came up to me and said, the show was great. And I was like, listen, I hope you didn't take that personal. I said, no, it's wrestling. And everybody was cool. And that's what told me, that's what made it so much fun. I mean, really. So I thank Richard Ramirez again for putting that together because that really was something that, I always wanted to see. I always heard about it and never saw it. And now, 18 years later, you get to see it. So, all right, I'm going to jet out of here. We are at the 2-hour and 20-minute mark. I will definitely be back next Sunday night with your next sit down. And then the following Sunday, Kevin and I will be live together. I'm going to record the Daily News Update literally 2 minutes after I go off the air now. And both episodes will be up later tonight. So I thank you, as always, for the support. Much appreciated. Keep supporting the website, DTKCShow.com. Keep downloading all the shows. That's what keeps us relevant in the stats. And remember, because we don't have sponsors, if you want, we have the Patreon, we have channel memberships that helps us, keep in business and pay the bills and helps us grow. I mean, you guys are the reason why we have daily news updates now. 6 days a week, daily news updates. And, down the line, Kevin and I are talking about doing a special episode every single month. We obviously have to work around our schedule, but the only reason why we're going to do it is if there's, enough demand for it. And, I think little by little, those who followed us in the past are slowly coming back. And I think in the same time, people are getting sick and tired of the routine that a lot of people in the podcasting world are doing. It does get a little bit tiresome to hear the same things said over and over again about AEW and Tony Khan and this and that and this. So I try not to focus on that on the shows unless there's something important that we should talk about. We don't avoid it, but we don't take advantage of it as well. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. But Detective or Detroit or DET Morales says Julia's debut was so cringe. I'm going to check out NXT No Mercy tonight. I want to see what went down. I want to see what happened. Listen, Julia has such a strong career in Japan leading up to tonight. Do not base Julia's future in NXT based on what happened tonight. Maybe I didn't see it, so I can't even judge it yet. But maybe it was just a spot that looked a little bit sloppy. Maybe it was just, bad time. I don't know. But absolutely would not, judge her future in NXT based on, just in a debut. But we'll see. We'll see. Guys, it's been real. Thank you as always for the support. I'll be live with Kev Monday night after Raw, so I hope you check out that. And yeah, where is my outro? I found my outro. Have a good one, everyone. Much love.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.